Hello, and thanks for joining us on the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Gen Con and the gaming capital of the world, this is The Established Facts.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Established Facts. I just want to take a moment and let you realize that I, your host, have returned from my sabbatical. And I hear that the show has been run into the ground, and it's my job to bring it back.
Insert last.
Oh, you are here. Hi.
You're fired. All right, now that we can continue on with the show.
You know, I'm at least glad that you picked up where I left off in firing Josh.
Why do I keep getting fired?
I didn't even get the memo, but I'm glad I could pick up where you left off.
Continuity is important. Also, speech is important.
Overrated.
Not on a podcast.
Overrated.
Love.
So, Donald, let's pretend like I don't know what's going on and enlighten me what I have just walked into the middle of.
Well, you have, fortunately for you, not had to experience the last two. No, I'm just kidding. The last
Check.
Yeah. We have begun, and we have done at this point now 2 episodes discussing the archetypes of characters and just general character-ness, talking about the personality and play style and things like that for different character archetypes. The first one we did was the fighter archetype, when we identified basically what a fighter does and who Boromir is from Lord of the Rings. Jeez Louise. And then the last episode we did support, when we talked about mostly clerics and awesome rogues and fun support stuff like that. So, yeah. That's what you've missed.
Right.
So nothing.
So what you're saying is I took a good chunk of time off where I wasn't going to miss a whole lot. No.
Yeah.
No. So I hear today we're going to be talking about the Survivalist.
Correct.
Right? This is good stuff. And Rhaegar, I hear that's your specialty of the
Apparently.
of the choices.
Don't sound too enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, well.
As he's melting away in the chair.
Don't hate.
I don't hate.
If I had a pillow or a blanket handy, you know.
We probably wouldn't even bother recording you.
We would have a napping Rhaegar.
Be like, just submit all of your things in email.
That's right.
So, I'm not exactly sure if you guys even did versus topics or
Yes,
any
we
of that stuff.
Yeah, the fighter episode we did was a versus topic amongst the 4, basically discussing the archetypes that we identified closer with and what we enjoyed playing. And then the last episode we did...
I believe it was the non-combat.
That's right.
Combat, right?
Non-combat versus combat support characters.
Well, I think I would propose that we do the same thing for the survivalist character, because we're going to find out there's quite a bit of combat-oriented survivalists, I think, through this. I think it'd be neat to go over that in that manner as well.
I don't know why you're looking at me. It's not my job.
Yeah, he got fired.
I got voluntarily demoted.
He didn't get fired. He was just replaced.
That's right. And I'm okay with that fact.
Wow.
Or if you have a better idea, Mr. Massey.
Well, I don't always come up with...
He has a last name?
I know, right? I'm the
I
host.
know. Sorry. Mr. Host.
You better click, delete that, baby. Right. So... Wow. So I think our versus topic, I think we should do kind of a breakdown. Rhaegar, I know this is like your what you're going to cover a little later, but how about we just do a simple versus topic of the urban survivalist versus the rural survivalist?
I like that.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
I'm getting approving nods on a podcast, so
Oh, yes, that sounds like a
Yeah,
fantastic
I approve.
look at that.
I concur.
Successful idea is successful.
Success!
the world is coming to an end. Derek and I have agreed on something.
I know.
You just need to leave.
Okay, bye.
Stop.
And the podcast, and then there were 7. No. Anyway,
It's no
Did you
longer
just
a
count?
fellowship.
We did.
oh man. Okay, so we're going to start around the table. We're going to start here with my left. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, and then we're going to start with the urban versus the rural survivalist.
This is Big Don.
And this is Princess Katie.
This is Derek.
Ragar.
This is Josh.
And as always, I'm the host. Well, I guess it's not as always, but
As always, you're sort of a guest host at this point.
well, as the guest host of
You
this,
just need to leave
as
right
the guest host of this episode of the Established Facts, I'm the host. I'm
That's
Mike. So we're gonna do your guys' opinion: urban or rural survivalist? Everyone but Derek's.
Oh. I'm going to say urban survivalist.
I'm also going to have to go with urban.
Rural.
Urban.
Urban.
Wow, that guy.
Yeah, this guy. But you didn't say anything.
I know, and I'm definitely an urban. But that's just the way it is. Okay, so it's pretty obvious where we're starting. Derek, why do you want to go play with the trees?
Make sure you clean off your pedestal. Got all the dirt from out in the rural area.
Or at
Yeah,
least,
thanks.
Or
Yeah.
at least your soapbox, one of the two.
Yeah.
Well,
Because what do you need to be a survivalist in the city? Aside from, unless you like live on the streets and that's all the type of characters you're going to be playing. It's like, have a grocery store, have a department. So I find it a little bit more challenging. No, take that back. A lot more challenging to play in the trees and try to basically survive in the wild. So, there.
Donald,
Yes.
why do you like playing in the city?
Well, I think that,
has fire hydrants.
yes. You can.
Take a shower in the fire hydrant.
Right, yeah.
I'm with
Play
you.
in the
I'm
streets
with
and,
you.
turn the fire hydrant on. We don't do that.
Better chance of comfy cotton.
That's actually illegal.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
I stole a fire hydrant in real life once.
Huh?
As
H-
opposed
how?
to fake
I'm sure
fire.
that's illegal.
My refrigerator's just stopped working, so let's just talk about that. No one's seen a TBS commercial? Never mind, move on.
No. No, sorry.
You watch too much TV.
So the reason that the urban survivalist is superior over the rural survivalist is mainly because you have to be open to thinking outside of the box, where a rural survivalist is kind of spelled out. You're going to use wilderness as basically your home. You're going to have to gather fruits and vegetables and meat to survive, as far as like your food and sustenance. The hardest thing usually in the wilderness survival is finding a good source of water and possibly shelter, which you can technically build shelter. But usually a lot of people die because of lack of water.
Derek's giving you the creepy eye.
That's fine. I'm not even looking at him. Luckily, it's a podcast. People don't have to see me.
That's true.
However, I believe that in a more rural setting, the art of the
Urban
sorry, in an urban setting, the art of the urban survival is usually just that actual survival of, not necessarily survival of the fittest, but survival of the craftiest, the one who's going to be able to think outside of the box, who's going to be able to dodge into alleys and dark corners and be able to hide from the ones who are usually after them. Typically, your urban survivalists are going to be your rogues for the most part. I've seen some variants where rangers can go urban survivalist, which is kind of interesting. You actually use like your tracking abilities that you would normally use in the woods as more of a gathering information, kind of like a bounty hunter, really, on how a bounty hunter might work. But I feel like in an urban setting, the challenges are a lot more advanced than what you might find in the wilderness, because you are having to deal with other members of society. You're having to deal with the either the greed of others or if someone's got a price on your head and they're after you, or if you're a cat burglar and you're trying to make your next big catch and make some money off of it without getting caught. I think that there's a lot of different environmental differences that make a urban survivalist more superior compared to that of a rural survivalist.
I have lots of things that I would like to share.
That's fine.
However, I'm just going to let you and Derek talk
That's
for a minute.
fine, because he's probably drooling right now.
He's not drooling.
Chomping
There's
at the
like,
bit.
if he could stab you in the back
That's
with
fine.
daggers
That's
from
fine.
his
He has
eyes.
a
He and I
Ready.
had a big disagreement when it came to fighters too, so it's not surprising to me.
What sort of insanity are you spouting, sir?
It's not insanity. I've played both sides of that coin.
So you think that it's more difficult to find shelter, even though there is ready-made shelter in cities, and more difficult to find food, although there are plenty of places to find said food?
Well, I will have to interrupt you because he did say that the challenges are different. So though you don't have to find shelter and food,
I'm getting to that point.
Okay, all right.
You actually have to find said things in the woods. And if you don't, you suffer and pretty much die. So the skill set to be able to find it, trap it, or kill it, or both, and then find a way of eating it safely. If we're going realistic, then you have to make sure it's free of disease and that sort of thing. And where to find fresh water so you don't die of dysentery or some other strange disease. So there is it's a lot more deadly in the wilderness than it is in urban. In urban, you pretty much go to jail unless you're stealing from some really bad people and they just shoot you dead. So,
see, I think that I think the reason that I disagree with you on that is that if you look at, let's say if you're talking real life, in a real life situation, if you look at someone who is homeless in the city, the things that they have to deal with, they might have a roof over their head, but that roof may be a bridge, which means they're still suffering from the elements. They're still having to try and find some sort of way to keep warm. You can't have an open fire in the middle of a city. Therefore, you have to basically wrap yourself in a blanket. I don't know what New York is like. I'm just telling you what Indianapolis is like. You cannot have a fire in a trash can in the middle of the city without getting some sort of attention from the wrong people.
So just a comment to add to that is I've seen a homeless person over in Japan who was underneath a bridge. He had collected various tents, tarps, and whatnot. He essentially had built underneath, using the bridge as a roof to this thing.
Like a foundation.
He had metal poles or PVC pipes for walls, and then inside of his little cutout window, I could see a TV in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
oh yeah, that's total survivalist.
That's a little. I mean,
totally. That's so dangerous.
Okay,
and
well,
I am so.
Can I change my
scared.
vote?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm changing
so
my vote.
Hold on.
You'd be wrong, but
hold
yeah.
on, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay. I'm going to have to dust off my soapbox here in a minute.
I have played the variant Urban Druid, and realistically, the difference between the Urban Druid and the Rural Druid is all of your skills will function in the city. Where if you read some of those skills, like survival as a skill set, it normally does not function inside of a city anywhere. So, what he's getting at is if you think of
He being
Donald.
Okay.
What Donald's getting at is he likes the fact that he doesn't have to worry necessarily about the one wrong choice and you're dead, as far as the intrigue of all the things you can experience in the city, in the urban side of life. So, yes, I do agree with you, Derek, that if you're out in the wilderness and you don't find shelter or whatever, and said boar comes up and kills you in the night because you're a horrible tracker, yeah, that's horrible. One wrong choice and you're dead. I agree with that. That's generally kind of the standard.
That makes them more hardy, and better than urban survivalists.
You also have to take into account more advanced wildernesses, like living in a desert, as opposed to being in the forest, or living, I don't know, on a stranded island.
But however, like we were talking about before the show started, that most of that in nowadays games, all the stuff between one city to another has been truncated down to, okay, you have one encounter, all the nights you slept well, and then you get up and you're in the city. So it seems to me, though you find the rural side of things more and more challenging, as a game master, and Don as a game master, as I play in your guys' games, that area is truncated down to, okay, you go from here to there. So you really don't you really don't let players dabble around in the area that you feel is the most dangerous. Even though you put monsters in front of us that I keep us alive from for thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds. However,
and by thousands and thousands and thousands, he means 3, because it's usually when it's over.
Yes.
But the area that none of us have skills for and could die in 2 days, yeah, you sleep harmlessly through the night, you get up, and there's no monsters, and you move into the next town.
Now, are you talking about things that we would prefer to play?
No, I'm just talking about the difference between those two.
No, I mean urban versus rural. Are you talking about things that we would prefer to play, or things
in our versus topic? Is that what you're saying?
In the versus topic, these are just as a standard. If you're going to look about survivalist, would you rather be a urban or a rural?
Did you decide? Okay.
What were you basing yours on?
Which one is more challenging?
Oh, well, I mean, it's become a good discussion. I like where we're going.
Okay. As far as what I'd prefer to play, it would be the urban, mainly because there's a lot more interesting human interaction between.
I completely agree with the hardiness of being living out in the woods and hugging the trees and all that good stuff.
Right. But yeah, I agree with you. As a game master, walking through the woods is just as exciting as it sounds, which is not. And I can come up with random encounters, but we all know how much fun those are, especially with you in the party. So it's just you just go, okay, well, where is the storyline going? What's the next plot point? And so it's where people are, which is going to be in the city.
Okay, so I've been kind of sitting on this and listening to the back and forth debate, which is so entertaining to watch when you're sitting across from both of you. So it's pretty entertaining.
I'm glad that we can provide you
but
such entertainment.
There's two more elements to this, and I think I'm hoping Jeremy touches a little bit on it as well, maybe to think about before we let Jeremy kind of spotlight himself a little bit. The idea of urban versus rural, our preferences has been talked about, yes, but now you've brought up challenges. I think maybe that's part of this discussion as well. But the challenge differentiation, do you say a poor person as an urban survivalist or a rural survivalist, and then the middle class, someone who's kind of used to a little bit of both, and then your rich posh lifestyle who only understands urban, how difficult would it be for them to survive in the rural?
Well, I think if you're going to break it down in categories of either experience or finance, I think you can still break down both urban and rural in all 3 ways, because you're going to have your beginner survivalist or your homeless guy, or your, I guess a good way to put it would be, you're going to have a Boy Scout out in the wilderness, and you're going to have the homeless guy who's only been out on the streets for a week and still doesn't know the ropes. He doesn't realize what is really going on yet. The reality has not set in that he no longer has a permanent roof over his head. And whereas your Boy Scout has not realized how to even build that roof over his head, how to, what plants are going to be appropriate for him to eat versus use as medicine versus not touch at all. I think that you can still, in those 3 categories of experience / I guess, financial support or foundational, financial foundation, you can still break it down in all three ways. Because your rich urbanist is going to be as experienced as someone, say, like Bear Grylls. I mean, he's got all the high tech fun stuff with really
True,
nice
but
Gerber
I don't
knives
agree
and
with
stuff
that.
like that.
Take Donald Trump. Take his cell phone away, throw him out in the middle of the wilderness.
Now hold on a second.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
What I'm trying to go with here is that I agree. We initially looked at this as what is our preference.
Right.
Awesome. But the conversation came up on which one's the most challenging. Well, which one's the most challenging is based off who's in the situation.
Well, that's true.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to get at.
I could take the hardiest rural survivalist guy, drop him in the middle of a city, and he's just as likely to die as the guy who you rip out of the city and drop in the middle of the wilderness.
I
I've
agree.
seen that movie starring Steven Seagal.
All of them are like that.
I was actually thinking about Batman.
See, I was thinking about Crocodile Dundee, but that's just,
I was thinking about the rich guy
that's not a knife.
that got dropped into Ra's al Ghul's training camp, and he had to basically survive. So he became what I consider to be a survivalist. I mean, even though he has lots of money.
I mean, even if you take any of those other archetypes, if you drop them out of their abnormal
Their element.
living,
Yeah.
they're going to have to either develop skills to survive
Yeah.
or
Or
die.
not survive.
Or
right.
think creatively on how to use what they already have.
And I mean, it could very well be as simple as maybe the guy you drop, that's the urban guy. Maybe he's just well versed in talking and being diplomatic or whatever, and runs across some guy and he convinces him to help him survive. Where the guy that's a little more rural and kind of keeps to himself or whatever, he might struggle on that end, but he'll find ways to find food and do all that stuff. It's just they're as equally as willing to. No, they're not willing. There's they have the same chance of either dying or surviving in their new environment. It just depends on how they use the skill sets that they've been enlisted with to do that.
Or it's like a fighter being put into a hippie peace camp and trying not to go insane.
Especially of the barbarian type.
Yeah.
I think that one thing that really, I know Derek and I got off on the foot of the opposition of what would be more difficult, and now we're talking about transposing one person from the reality that they have known for years and years and years into a completely opposite reality of what they're used to. But I think that what it comes down to, really, the biggest separating factor is your mentality. Are you a survivalist? Are you the kind of person that no matter what you come against, you are going to try and find a way to solve your problems? Or are you the kind of person that is going to be challenged with something that you think is too great and you're going to fold under pressure, and that decision could be the last decision that you make?
Now, a lot of my storylines tend to go that route where you take fish out of water. Like, for instance, the Gen Con game, where your characters came from one plane and were dropped completely whole cloth into another plane. I mean, Josh, how did that, I mean, you can't, I guess you can't really speak to the first one since you just were learning the character itself, but as it progressed, how did you think that affected?
Ultimately, that's where it's gonna. I think Don has a point, and I think they're right. It will be a person situation. I do feel that as the character, trying to wrap myself in as the character coming from one plane to another, you're forced into a survivalist situation. And having that knowledge going into that particular role-playing game makes it easier to deal with, as that may be. But now that we're on the topic, what else? What does it take to be a survivalist? We may have experienced being one, but are we really aware that we have been?
Hey, careful now. You're getting
I'm
into
not
the 3 Ps.
No, that's why I'm doing that
You're
on
getting
purpose.
into transition territory.
I know.
I'm feeling a segue.
Are you? I want to know. I do. I know this sounds like I'm sounding like a listener right now, but I don't care. I haven't played very many survivalist characters. I've been forced into survivalist situations, but I was not coming into it as a survivalist, if that makes sense.
Point of order.
I hear a metronome.
Well, that's true. I think it's funny you say you haven't played very many survivalist characters because I know your aversion to playing characters who are of the evil alignment.
Yeah.
And even when you play in a party that has evil characters and you play something that's not an evil alignment, I think that's naturally your way of being a survivalist. Is because even though you might not have the skill set on your character sheet that allows you to be the survivalist in quotations, but you by being I'm the neutral guy, that I'm not exactly evil but I'm not exactly good, it allows you to do things that we as a party of evil characters or whatever, goblins or whoever, whatnot, allows you to do things that we wouldn't do. So though you might not have that skill set, it still opens options for you that we don't have available to us.
Yeah,
thus making you a survivalist.
Fair enough.
I mean, you really had to. I mean, you were trying desperately to be a good character in that party.
I was desperately trying to stay neutral. Which, with all the evil going on, in order to balance that out, I had to do the good. That was why it was...
In the end, resistance was futile. But
Well,
I mean...
don't
You're
make
to be
me
assimilated.
And that's why I'm the only good person left in the party.
That's because you stay on the ship.
Yeah, seriously, you don't join us.
You're like the
anything.
paladin we tell to turn around.
No, I just don't walk out.
So Rhaegar, if we have not trampled too much on your spotlight here, why don't you give us your breakdown on the survivalist?
Alrighty. So, what I was referring to earlier with the 3 Ps was purpose, playstyle, and personality. And one of the other things I like to go into to touch on a little bit would be the training. So, purpose, I see survivalists as skill-centric. They're support, but they're not as roleplay focused. They're more skill focused. And they're risk takers in some sense. Enablers is the word I'm going to use. So while the support, as I described last time, went out to create openings or opportunities, the survivalists go in and take advantage. They're usually the first guys to take advantage of those openings. So the play style is essentially that you're running around, not necessarily sticking with the group all the time, going and making sure that you're in position. Actually, that's a good point there. It's positional in some cases. Being able to run around behind a dragon to get flanking bonuses, and being able to be a damage dealing support role. The personality of the player, I'm going to say, it's encouraged to have creativity and thought, as well as having some sense of being a loner or an opportunist. And the training associated with being a survivalist, I think, is probably the least intensive, second to the fighter classes.
Are you talking like training to be able to play that type of character?
The character itself. So what skills they had to be trained or learn through the process of growing up.
Okay.
Actually, probably the best example I can think of a survivalist is from the Ender's Game series. There's a character called Bean, who grows up from a very... he's essentially born and crawls his way around, and he is the epitome of a urban survivalist. So as we were going through that discussion, I was thinking of him the entire time. Crocodile Dundee, I think, was a really good reference to a survivalist. And I could also see Doctor Who being a survivalist.
Well, definitely, especially if you add the loner aspect of it. I think we figured out during support that there's a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, but support characters are often needed within the group. But I can see a survivalist stepping out and kind of doing a lot of things on their own to support the character.
They're a part of the party, but they're not really a part of the party. They like to go off on their own.
Yeah, I think that there's a. I wasn't here for the support breakdown, but I like to play. There's a funny blurred line between support and survivalist.
There really is.
And in my mind, when I think if someone says, "Hey, what's a support character?" I generally think your clerics and that kind of stuff that kind of boost and help and support the party, but generally from behind the party. Generally, that's kind of what I think. And then on the other hand, you think survivalist, and just like you said, it's that guy that can look at the battlefield and go, okay, where do I need to be to provide the most people in my party with the greatest benefit?
Yeah, they're the druids that say, okay, all my pets go there.
Right. Or I'm the rogue that's going to stand behind this dragon, that way that fighter can hit him.
And a good example of that graying area where you're mixing a little bit of support and survivalist would be the bards or your oracles.
Yeah, I mean, there's any of those classes that have multiple archetypes underneath of them allow them to be all kinds of things. Like, I mean, I know Katie is playing a rogue or a bard that is like Indiana Jones. It's all about going and finding artifacts and all this kind of goofy stuff. And I would absolutely put that more on the end of a support character than I would a survivalist. Though she would like to get up there and stand behind all the dragons and do tons of damage, her skill set or her way that she's, the character's built isn't there. And
I don't really see a bard being a survivalist.
Oh,
you don't think
absolutely.
So? Absolutely.
I could see both, actually.
It's just really if
it's a less intensive version of a support role.
I still don't see it. I mean, like a bard is all charismatic. They're all about like talking to people, and that to me is
that's only because that's only if you use that as your performance.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bard that was mute but played drums.
Right.
Or I played a bard that took the lore master archetype, and all he did was, you're fighting this big ogre, and he's going to tell you everything about that ogre, how he's going to hit you, what abilities he has, how he's going to smash you.
That's still support.
You could also go skill heavy.
It's providing you with the information. Like that was his bardic performance or whatever. So in me providing you with the bonuses you needed to hit him, I'm helping everyone survive. I'm telling you what he's immune to. I'm telling you what he's not immune to, what he's susceptible to. I'm putting the party in the best opportunity or the best place to survive. I am not maintaining the party, which is what I see support. Support maintains the party. The survivalist goes, okay, here's the best situation I can set you in when this is starting. And then I'm going to do what I'm doing, and you're going to do what you're doing.
With support roles, I saw that being roleplay intensive. So in that sense, you're going with characters that don't have a lot of rules, at least written down throughout the book in terms of, this is how conversation's going to be determined. But with survivalists, there's more defined results associated with what you're going to be able to provide.
I just think of the role of a survivalist is you're in a hostile situation. He's or she's a go-to person to help you live through that situation.
That could be branded on anybody then.
Yeah.
Depending on who's playing the character.
Well then, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if we were playing in Josh's game, and you're playing the big half orc caster guy that you made,
right?
And I mean, if we're in a situation where there's something huge that's in front of me that I know that I'm not going to be able to hit, but I know you will. You're the survivalist. You're going to let us get out of this. But on the other hand, if we're in a situation where there's a huge red dragon about to blow his breath weapon into the area, and I can summon large fire elementals that are going to absorb it all, now I'm the survivalist because I'm going to be needed what's needed for the party to live. You know what I mean? If we're in the city and Don's playing a rogue, and we need to sneak into the back of this town, and I don't have any sneak, guess who's going in? Don.
Okay. All right.
What I can't wait for, honestly, is the 5th episode in the series. When we start putting the Venn diagrams together and finding the characters that fit into each and every role. Your survivalist person, the personality that goes behind a survivalist, is someone who's willing to go on their own and has no problem surviving such as that. I've been trying to make some correlations with video games throughout this whole process as well. Nathan Drake from the Uncharted
Thank
series.
you. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I
that's
was
where I went
thinking.
to.
Your character in the Skyrim game, your Dragonborn.
Yeah.
It does not matter if you're the caster, the fighter, or support. you have to survive.
True.
You as what you're doing is surviving that game. Is the
Avoiding
reality.
taking an arrow to the knee.
Well, yeah, but yeah, that was immediately I went with the even Master Chief. I know he's a good, just flat out kill everything in their path, but
It's how he survives.
it's that's his method of survival, as it may be. Thus, the blending that we're going to start to see between your fighters and your survivalists. Indiana Jones was a great. I loved that thought. It's exactly.
Yeah, he is a survivalist.
He is a survivalist on his own. If Indiana Jones were in a party, I'd probably call him the support character. But by himself, I would consider him the survivalist.
And speaking of that, reference that I was thinking of to bring some movie and book references in, Aragorn was the first thing. When you're talking about people who like survive on their own, but also, then transition to a different role within the party. Like him and Katniss Everdeen, for anybody that's seen or read The Hunger Games, were the two people I was thinking of when we were debating urban and rural survivalists.
Gandalf.
Yeah. Yeah, because he goes off and does his own thing a lot and then just comes back to the party.
Well, Ratatosk then.
Radagast, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think survivalist, just what I'm formulating here, survivalist is not necessarily, probably not necessarily a character type, as much as it is an environmental situation that you're put into, in which a other type of character type is the go-to person or the leader or the one that's familiar with this area or whatever.
And I actually see that being valid for all of the other archetypes that we've covered as well.
I mean, I don't know necessarily about fighter. Fighter's pretty straightforward, but
We thought so, and we talked about it for 45 minutes.
well, I can talk about being a fighter for 45 minutes, but I just don't like. I would never look at the mage and brand him as a fighter. Like it's not that.
Yeah.
It's not the same type of combat. You know what I mean?
I would not agree with that.
You would brand the mage as a fighter?
Yes.
How?
The caster is going to be a fun episode.
Yes, it is.
How?
I
Okay,
beef
well,
up.
I guess.
I
What do
beef
you
up
what do you
and-
what do you define a fighter as?
I define a fighter as someone who can go toe to toe, or who. Well,
He's the guy that runs in and kills everything in
Yeah.
their path, pretty much.
yeah, but
And that was where we were going with that. That's why we knew there'd be a blending with the caster on that element.
The,
Yeah.
the big aspect
Because
with the
here's my
fighter
thing:
that came up was
in order,
the personalities.
if you take Jeremy and you say, Jeremy, I want you to build a whatever level fighter, and you go, Derek, I want you to build a whatever level caster, or vice versa,
Right.
and you go, okay, on the count of 3, you guys are going to fight.
okay.
Ready? Go. Okay? As in, not game time prep, as in, game starts, you're fighting. I think the caster would die every
No.
time.
No.
There's not enough prep time if that fighter is standing right there for that caster to go, I'm casting all these spells and boosting my AC and doing all this, that, and the other. I just think there's not enough prep time for the caster to be blended into a fighter.
Sanctuary.
See,
Boost. Boof.
Okay.
Boost.
His
boost,
AC is
boost.
probably, or his initiative is probably going to be higher than yours.
Spoilers. Next
See,
episode.
I'm thinking of League of Legends now, with something like that.
What about it?
I mean, look at your different types of roles. You have the with your fighter, your tank essentially, who's running in, and then you have somebody like Rise. I could see him being a survivalist.
Right, but overall, you can't say a guy who's going to have a D10 hit points and a D4 hit points.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? You
Absolutely
can't. You
can.
can't. You absolutely not.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Absolutely
Cut it out.
not.
This isn't your show, Josh.
All right. All right.
Anyway.
I have a release
It's my-
schedule to set, okay?
Besides the point, I think the survivalist is just whatever, and I agree. Whatever is on, whatever you're doing at the time, that the party needs to survive or needs to get through whatever this challenge is. I think, ironically enough, whoever's familiar with that area or is good in that area or just whatever, that person is deemed the survivalist.
I
And
don't
that-
agree with that.
That's
I think
fine.
that there is a very definitive way of putting what a survivalist is, and that is someone who can basically live on their own.
Okay.
Okay, Don, go.
So, two characters that I thought of while you guys were spouting off different survivalists. Urban would be Punisher.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, nice.
Rural would be, and I don't know why anybody else didn't say this, Rambo. They pretty much are equal in.
But they work on their own.
Yeah, they're loners. They are weapon specialists. They have the ability to, no matter what situation they're in, find a way out or at least to live.
Rambo,
Jason Statham in any movie he's in. Just
Right, yeah.
Everyone.
fun fact about Rambo, he was actually a, what was it, a guerrilla fighter. That's what he was trained to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't the upfront,
Right.
infantry guy.
Right. He was kind of the...
Which is why you can pull out that combat knife and do all the kinds of
Right,
crazy
exactly.
traps that
Like
he
any
did.
special forces.
Right, exactly.
Mel Gibson
now-
on Patriot.
Exactly.
Great
yeah.
movie.
And that's a whole different. I think the only reason that's a little bit different style of a survivalist is just because of the time frame. But it's basically the exact same thing. I mean, you're running around with a tomahawk and a knife and a rifle and a pistol, and you are surviving on the land. You are not needing to go to anyone for any sort of rations because you can take care of your rations or your unit's rations. I think where a character similar to Mel Gibson's character. I can't remember his last name, but Benjamin. The only real difference is he kind of grays that line between fighter and survivalist because he's a leader. He is a commanding officer of a unit, but they are a militia unit. So it's like it's a totally different kind of fighting. Now, as far as the bard is concerned and being a survivalist, I think that a bard would make an adequate survivalist, one, because even though they have a limited amount of arcane abilities, they do have the ability to heal themselves. So if they get into a hairy situation and they're on their last leg, they can at least keep themselves from dying right then and try and get out of the situation they're in. Second, they have the largest extensive knowledge foundation of any other character that you can play, which means if they are in the wilderness, they can make a knowledge nature, which means they know what fruits they need, what kind of water they need, where they need to boil their water. Now, in doing that, that's more of a survival check. However, it doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence to know when your water's boiling. So, in my opinion, I think that a bard would make a good survivalist if you are kind of meshing the whole rural and urban survivalist together. Now, I agree that there are definitely lines that you have to cross in order to make it work 100%, but I think that somebody like a bard would be successful. Now, the last point that I was going to make, I can't remember because I've been trying to catch up.
There was a lot going on right there.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. For as dominant of a personality as I have, sometimes I like to watch things just kind of unfold in front of me.
Or explode.
Or explode. But I think that on the point that most of, and I'll be honest, I know that having played one before, I know that it's possible to have a somewhat adequate mage be a fighter, and I know this is probably something that we're going to go into more next week. However, I think that I would have to agree on the sentiment that a fighter face-to-face with a mage is going to be a lot more effective in melee combat or possibly even in ranged combat, depending on the kind of combat.
I
it is.
am
However,
willing to throw down. I am willing
That's
to
fine.
build
We'll
a
wait
source.
until- for
that.
we will wait
I'll
until-
build a caster that will be able to go head toe to toe with
all
a
right.
fighter.
Well, I'll
Best
build a
built
fighter, and then you and I can play it
Definitely.
out before we record.
That would be no.
We
If
can
we're
do this
doing
tonight.
that sucker is going to be an actual play.
Okay, we
that
can do an
sucker's
actual
going
play.
down.
Are you
All right.
are you
I
willing
will
to
do
throw
it.
down?
What
All
level?
right.
What level?
Oh, well, we'll have to make
One.
this
Okay,
interesting.
we'll figure it
do
out. One.
12.
1.
12th level.
12th
First level.
12th level.
The caster can't live through first level. It's never going to make it to 12th.
We will do 2. We will do first, and we will do 12th.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Done.
Cool.
All right, we will work out the the ideas behind that. We may have to host a live Google Hangout so people can see the bloody.
There
Make
you
sure we're
go.
not cheating.
Always something interesting on my shows.
There you go. Chaotic neutral all over again.
Yes, it
It's
is.
so true.
Oh,
I
goodness
don't
gracious.
really know if I have. Does anybody else have anything? Because
Well, I mean-
I'm very.
I think
More
I think that kind of getting back to the point of what an effective survivalist is and does. I think that you can make an argument that any character could be a survivalist because survival is 90% mentality. However, I think that there are definitely archetypes and there are definitely specific character types
That encourage.
like Drake, like Crocodile Dundee, like the Punisher, that specifically are just in their element when it comes to surviving, when it comes to being able to, as Jeremy said and Mike said, lay out a battlefield and say, okay, the most advantageous position that I can get in to bolster my party is here. So what do I need to get from point A to point B in order to help everyone in the party?
Another quick example of this would be pirates. Referencing back to when you made comment about Boy Scouts, right underneath that I thought of sailors because of the knot skills.
Right.
And that got me thinking about pirates. I mean, you'd have people go into fights with like 6 guns. They're all one-shots. And then you'd also have pirates with cutlasses, which were slimmed-down longswords. It's essentially the same as, a shortened barrel on a gun so you can move around.
A blunderbuss.
If we're going to go pirates, then we should also go ninjas.
That's
I think he mentioned that earlier.
my ninja
pirates all the way.
that I've been running around with. Complete survivalist.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have any of the typical skills you'd find on a rogue, but it's more damage dealing. But I see.
Well, and I would even put your Star Wars character. You've mentioned that he's now. Granted, the class you're playing makes you more of a support character. The way you're playing him is you're playing him as a survivalist.
So then I have a question.
Ah, yes.
So take my life oracle.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And, lock him away.
Now, hold on. Is he?
We should probably do a little bit of background.
Hold
about
on.
what that
I'll
is.
get there. I want the blanket answer first. Is he a support character or is he a survivalist?
Support.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sport.
You think so?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have the ability to live through just about anything.
Yeah, but you aren't in and of yourself. You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
I can't do what myself?
Damage dealing.
I don't need to damage deal. I'm just saying if the world was crashing in on everything that's going down, he will survive.
Yeah, but that's all he does is
He's
survive.
a survivalist.
That's the point. That's what
that's
you're
the
going with.
point. The point is you could put me in any hostile environment and he'll live.
Well, and I agree with you, but the way you played him
That's
was a
not
support
what I
character.
asked.
I know, and that's why I think we both were on the idea that the Life Oracle can be a survivalist class. That's where it comes down to play style.
exactly.
The way you play your character puts you in your circle. And we're going to find out even more as we get towards the end of this, that a caster could be represented as a fighter depending on where they're needed. A survivalist can be pushed into a support character if it's needed. That's what I think we're going to find out. And I can't wait to find out the 3 Ps on the caster as well, because a lot of things are going to come out of the woodwork when this happens.
We've got all sorts of build up now.
Oh, this is so exciting. I love these. Okay.
I'm just thinking about a 12th level fighter.
I'm thinking about a 12th level caster, too.
Oh,
So,
man.
Oh, jeez.
would you consider a cleric a caster?
That we'll find out
I
next
guess you'll
episode.
find out after next episode. Because I'm pretty sure you lumped cleric into support.
Yeah. But,
Because technically a druid's a caster, and a bard's a caster, and a ranger's a caster, and
yeah, that's
mean,
true.
you know.
But you did say yourself that things blended together.
but then
so
again,
before.
ranger's a fighter, and a druid's a fighter, and
Paladin's
paladin's a fighter, and
To keep it as simple as possible.
I'm just
A
saying.
To keep it as simple as possible, if I were the one judging this, I would say wizard or sorcerer versus fighter.
Done.
if you're going Pathfinder. Okay? That if I were being the one judging those, I am going to film it. So that's how it's happening.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
So
It's easy.
wizard or sorcerer, I don't really care about bloodlines or whatever. Fighter, again, I don't care which method you go, axe, range, I don't really care. But if I under the Pathfinder core rule set, which again we're going to put that out there too so people understand. And let's see what
there
other.
is also going to be no setup time, no prep time.
And this is just because this is my preference. And sorry, 2d6 plus 6 for all attributes, max hit points.
Okay.
See, I think we should just have the same, in my opinion, if you're going to do an even match, have the same ability
Same
scores
ability
and
scores.
just arrange them
So
how it would
the
be
elite
appropriate.
array, is that maybe?
Right. So
elite
yeah,
array,
so it would be
okay.
appropriate for
Very
each
good.
character.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then appropriate starting money for 12th level characters.
Yep.
And first level, since we're doing
Yeah,
both.
and first level.
So,
Don't get so cocky, dude.
so
Not.
just
I'm just
throwing,
excited.
just throwing
See,
out
I want to
another
go. I want to
idea,
go barbarian,
a
but
little wrench into this
Oh.
plan here.
Okay. I'll let the panel vote. We gave you two options. Will he get barbarian as his second option? I'm going to say yes, but what does everybody else think?
My vote's no.
Katie?
because I can think. I mean, a monk is a more effective fighter than what a barbarian would be, but I think that a barbarian would be fun. Maybe it's just because I want to rage right now on my microphone.
Why? I want to know why. Why wouldn't you give him barbarian or monk for that matter?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, in my opinion, they should be both restricted to one class.
Well, then which one are you going to choose? Like which?
For wizard or sorcerer?
Mm-hmm.
Wizard.
Yeah, that's pure. That's a pure caster. That's not a.
So it's,
let's
so
do
sorcerer.
wizard versus fighter.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay
If
with
you're-
that.
Yeah, I'm okay with just restricting it down to 1 and 1.
Okay.
The combatants have chosen.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Now,
And if you beat me, I'm stealing your build. Just so you know, I'm laying that out right now. If you beat me, I'm stealing your build for my next game.
if we're going to have a throwdown, how about we have a throwdown between all four of the archetypes?
Oh, we can do that too.
Oh,
That'd be fun.
okay. Then who's the ultimate survivalist? Since we're in the survivalist.
I'll take an oracle.
Oh God!
Oh yeah, actually, that would be a never-ending loop.
You going to be the rogue?
I'm thinking core rulebook classes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm hitting him for the 800th time!
And he's not doing any damage to me. So
He's eating a sandwich!
Oh man!
Yeah, I agree with core rulebook. So Jeremy, what would you?
I'm not sure.
We're looking at fighter, wizard, ranger, and rogue, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Because you really need to make sure that you capture something that isn't crossing into any of the other.
So
Oh no,
rogue.
but that's the most difficult thing. The one that leans the most support is the rogue, and the
No,
one
it's
that
not. Bard.
Actually, I was thinking the rogue leans the most towards fighter.
oh, I wouldn't.
No,
No,
I'd
no.
say that would be survival.
Oh, okay, now
Oh
we're getting
my
across.
God.
This
I
is
see
I've got-
rogue as
I'm
more
not even
survivalist
I'm
than I do
gonna-
support.
I'm gonna
Well, it's a
play nice,
survivalist.
and I'm gonna
Play nice.
go fighter because
But
do
out of
it.
a rogue and a bard,
Okay,
I'd say
look,
bard's
we're gonna,
more support.
You know, here's what we're
Yeah.
gonna do. We're gonna start because the argument initially was fighter and caster. We're gonna start with that. See how that works out. Then if we need to add the other two in
Oh,
for
yeah,
a
we're
future
adding the
date,
other two in.
I know, but let's do the first
It's
two.
not
and
if
see
we
how it
need
works
to,
first.
it's because we want
Okay,
to.
when we do it, we'll do it. But I think we need to get to that episode first so we can
Yeah.
kind of isolate
let's
that.
make sure that all of our podcast members are still living by that time. I may lose to a wizard and just jump off the building.
So, on the last episode, Donald,
Yeah,
you established
that's right.
that an effective support character not only enhances a party, but it also complements formal wear and curry quite nicely.
That's right. The reference was actually made in the episode. That was not my fault.
It was a good reference.
I
really
hold
was
you
good.
responsible for everything
Okay.
that happens.
Okay, it was my fault.
There you
but
go.
It at least is referenced in the episode.
It is.
It's okay.
Supports the salt and pepper of the party. I think is where that came
Yeah.
from.
And
Sure.
yum Indian food.
Well,
And I'm pretty sure we brought up something about monocles.
Yeah.
yeah, probably.
Pretty
the
sure
formal wear.
that's what I heard in that like 5-second snippet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Salt, pepper, and monocles.
Like literally, that's exactly what I heard. But I would like to establish that though you may travel in a party of 8, 9, or 10, much like the Highlander, the Survivalist, there can only be one
That's right.
that will win.
We
Or
should,
be only one, depending on who is listening. It can be only one? Or
we should get the licensing fees.
There
so-
can be
Yeah, we
only
ones.
one.
Thank you. Just making sure. I don't want to get reamed by the fans.
He's the host.
We have 92 of them now.
Well,
90 of them.
at least 90.
We've
The
gotten to
Facebook page
90-ish.
for Wally and Dinky doesn't count.
That's right.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.